Two gaming news things I wanted to talk about this week. The first involves the big two, PlayStation and Xbox, and some changes and some things staying the same. So maybe you've seen the headlines or not, but this just broke yesterday if you're watching this on Wednesday when I put out these videos. There has been a leadership shakeup at Sony where it kind of looks like they're done screwing around. Basically, long story short, in the summer of 2024, it was announced, new PlayStation leadership essentially would be a joint venture. Moving forward, PlayStation was going to be operated by two co-CEOs, one being Herman Hulst, who was head of first-party PlayStation Studio stuff and formerly the bigwig in charge of Guerrilla Games, as well as Hideaki Nishino. This, of course, is after Jim Ryan has left. But now, not too much long later, there is a shakeup. It seems like Herman Hulst is no longer co-CEO of PlayStation, but he is going to remain in charge of PlayStation first-party studio stuff. So a lot of people are looking at this shakeup and, thinking, hey, what's going on? Did Herman Hulst get demoted or something like that? I think it can be a variety of things, but I do think one of the bigger things is maybe it's possibly some accountability in the corporate world, essentially with the high profile failures of Concord's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars wasted, as well as, Sony most recently, very recently now, probably related, canceling a bunch of live service games. I guess maybe somebody had to take accountability for it. Yes, maybe not Herman Hulst greenlit every single one of these things because they have been in the works for years and years. But at the end of the day, leadership, the person at the top is responsible for it. So I'm wondering if him not being co-CEO is essentially some form of a change in or a redirect from the whole live service thing. Is this Sony pivoting from its plans? We don't really know for sure. It could be that maybe just as time went on, it didn't make sense, or maybe duties couldn't be handled, juggling multiple things. I don't know for sure, but it does mark some sort of change at PlayStation, and I think it is something you don't see very often, very common, a co-CEO shakeup thing like that so quickly, the dust barely settled on the announcement. So I think that's weird. It's not the biggest change up in the world because, Herman Hulst is still technically head of first-party studios. He's still overseeing that. So it's not like there's going to be completely different games greenlit overnight, but it was something that I did find interesting. Maybe a little bit of inside baseball, but essentially it was a week of swirling Xbox PlayStation news with Phil Spencer doing a bunch of interviews. He did one with Gamertag Radio, the long-running podcast, as well as recently independent game media guy Destin Legary. And there were a lot of interesting headlines and polls and stuff like that. Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, does talk a lot. He does go on things a lot. So I always do say, I want to see the actions more than just the words, because being a cool gamer guy is one thing, but, actually seeing these things implemented is another. And there are a lot of really interesting quotes still to come out of this that I think were worth diving into. Number one, very much still committed to it, seemingly Xbox is going to be in the platform building business, essentially publishing more of their games on more things and doubling down on services and publishing and Xbox anywhere, playing Xbox things, Xbox published things on smart TVs, mobile, laptop, whatever you have. I think that is an intelligent move for the future, with attention span and with some people not having access to hardware. It makes sense. But on the other hand, obviously, and it's been talked to death at this point, a lot of Xbox fans are like, oh man, what does this mean for our plastic boxes that we've invested in, the ecosystem, so to speak? And I think that's a fair question to ask. It's great. And they said, again, they're putting more games on PlayStation. They're going to be trying to, he did say they want to support the Nintendo Switch too. That's all well and good, but a lot of people still are is the Xbox hardware just going away? Is it going to disappear? And will Xbox just become essentially a Sega who used to make consoles and just publishes games now? Well, it seems like we shouldn't count Xbox out yet. And I quote, "In the position that I'm in, I look at hardware as a critical part of what we do, but we're not trying to gatekeep the games off of other places for the benefit of it. Let's go build innovative hardware that people want to use to play, whether that's in their hands, whether it's on the television, or even other places. I want people to pick hardware based on the capabilities of that hardware and how that fits into the choices that they want to make about where they want to play, and we want our hardware to win based on the hardware capabilities that we have." So they very still much are going out there. It seems like they're still doing hardware. We've gotten leaks of their, short-term to mid-term plans with hardware, and it seems like they still want to try to beat Sony, but specifically now beating them on, as Push Square puts it, console capabilities and not necessarily games and exclusives and stuff. I think from a money play, like an inside baseball play, like it is interesting. Yes, you're publishing games, you're putting them out there, you want them in the hands of as many people as possible, and the future is games everywhere, and then you get a cut of those games, right? But with still committing to some sort of hardware, they're going for consumer choice and hoping that like what they offer is just going to be what some players are looking for. I mean, that's currently how it's kind of going now. But if they're doing that in the future, and with him saying specifically that hardware innovation and like capabilities and stuff is what they want to attract people to their console with, I wonder what that is. You know, at this point, how much can these consoles, can these boxes really innovate? There are plenty of things that like people can look at with an Xbox and choose and really enjoy. The user interface, you know, maybe they've just been in that platform for a while, maybe they like the avatars, I don't know, but like features like quick resume, the play anywhere, the cloud save stuff, like that can really help people choose an Xbox. Yes, but like what else is there? You know, as things move on, and if Sony doubles down into like the kind of how they normally do things, where it's just selling consoles and selling exclusives, and those exclusives get people to buy the consoles, you know, what is Xbox's fancy hardware tricks that are going to get people to buy that? Because of course, now everybody is asking the question, why would you choose an Xbox over PlayStation when you can play the Xbox things pretty much anywhere you want? You don't need to buy another hardware box. I think it's an interesting and tough sell, but I do expect Xbox to continue to make hardware in the future. Yes, it's probably going to be different. And yes, it might not be the most mountain moving, incredible shaking things, but I don't know. Alternatives are good. People are going to just choose different things. If there's different types of gaming laptops out there, some people gravitate to MSI, some people gravitate towards Asus or whatever. So consoles, same thing, I guess. I think it's just getting a little less flashy, sexy, exciting with incredible innovation and also, you know, first party exclusives. I want to know what you guys think though, because I always tend to kind of like look at this from afar because I play on PC. And in my entire life, I've always bounced around between different platforms. So I've never really had like a hardcore investment or loyalty to just Xbox or just PlayStation. I was a big Xbox 360 guy, but I was a huge PS2 kid. Like I've bounced back and forth. So I look at this kind of like, okay, like weird, like what's going on, you know? Just genuine curiosity as someone who just talks about the business and how Microsoft does do a good job of always trying to do things a little bit differently. They have been doing that with Game Pass and their services and stuff like that. But I want to know how you feel if you are someone just solely and deeply invested in Xbox. Do you care? Are you going to continue to buy Xbox hardware just because they're putting it out? Or are you thinking things differently? I don't know. Let me know how you feel. I also like never really thought, I mean, like obviously when they started really going multi-platform, some people were like, is that it? Is Xbox hardware done? I think honestly, there's still so much brand power in the name Xbox that people are going to be buying Xbox for quite a few more years, whether they're informed or not. And I think Xbox would probably still want to get some of that cash, milk some of that. But again, that's just me. I'm just kind of spitballing, armchairing here. So let me know. Also, the other thing I wanted to talk about this week, I didn't have time to put it in a full video, but I did review for GameRank's Sniper Elite Resistance. That's right. They made another one. I didn't know this one was coming out. I totally forgot. I don't know, like they didn't market it, they didn't push it a lot until all of a sudden I was like, oh, I looked at the calendar, I was like, oh yeah, that's coming. But I spent a good ass time in the game, played through the whole campaign, checked out the multiplayer suite and stuff like that. And at first I was like, nah, this feels like presentation wise and stuff kind of cheaper than Sniper Elite 5. And then gameplay wise and feel wise, it's very similar to Sniper Elite 5. In a lot of ways, it's just more Sniper Elite 5 with a different character, a different skin, really. But the more I kept playing, the more I messed with options and I ramped up the difficulty and had that challenge. I turned the difficulty down and started running and gunning and stealthing because there's so many different like difficulty options and parameters and like how hardcore you want the sniping to be and stuff. When I really messed around with that stuff and then I ended up blasting through the whole campaign, I realized like this is just a good old fashioned video game. And I know I use that line a lot, but I mean it in the sense where it's like you buy a game, right? And it's got like a pretty solid, compelling campaign and then a bunch of multiplayer features. A bunch of multiplayer features that actually seem like they might be worthwhile, and you might want to check them out. For me personally, there is a lot of multiplayer options, and the one that really didn't vibe with me was 16-player competitive multiplayer. I didn't really want to do that much. I wasn't able to check out too many before the servers were live anyway, but the maps are big enough to support it. But I don't know. What I did really like is the co-op. Obviously, being able to do all the campaign missions co-op is absolutely awesome. And Sniper Elite, I'm glad they're continuing that. And also like a wave-based survival mode. That stuff just really works for this type of formula. Then along with that, like you have incentives to replay the campaign because obviously they are these massive, massive sandbox sniping stealth levels, right? You can do it slow, you can do it tactical, you can do it completely non-lethal, you can do it like completely unseen, whatever you want to do, right? But what is cool is that now you can go and discover like workbenches and stuff in the environment, but also alternate entry points. So kind of like the new Hitman games, when you want to replay a mission, you know, do it a different way, get a different score, find some hidden things in the environment this time. You can choose a different entry point so you start the mission in a completely different spot. And that's a game changer, especially for a sniping game where like the whole thing is positioning and where you are and scouting. That's really cool. And I enjoy jumping back into levels again. And I think genuinely these are some of the best levels that the series has had, at least in quite some time. Obviously, like I checked them all out. I've played all of them since 2 and really, really enjoy most of them. But here they just seem like really, really good playgrounds for like on the ground, like boots on the ground, moment to moment stealth, whether it's through fields or through farming villages or like a French castle stronghold or a massive city at night or a big village during the day with like clock towers and multiple rooftops and stuff. There's like just so much opportunity for a shit ton of fun. And that's it. I just genuinely had a lot of fun sniping and blowing heads up. Like it has the X-ray shit, of course. It's like a Mortal Kombat fatality. It does the whole X-ray vision, the whole 9 yards. And you know, I love it. It does get old after a while, and you can change the options and like you can speed it up if you want. But you know, to see the bones shatter, to see the organs rupture, to see all that go down is cool. What Sniper Elite has nailed, I really think since they were doing it with 2, but I think by Sniper Elite 3, they really nailed the feel of click pow, pulling the trigger. The reaction, you know, like of a gun firing like a the reaction of like the bullet and the muzzle flash and everything and also the sound design and the feel in the controller and the camera zooming and the bullet trajectory, all of that just makes for like good tangible sniping. Is it the most hardcore realistic thing? No, but it is so satisfying. The enemy AI is still a little like goof-tastic and you can still manipulate them in some ways, but with the difficulty ramped up and taking it slow, it's just really, really compelling. The new character did nothing for me. The story or whatever, if you could even call it a story, didn't do anything for me, but the mission style really works. How all the optional objectives, how the main objectives and the freedom to tackle it all flows together just really, really worked and made for really like well-paced, well done sandbox encounters. Like these levels were like a good meal. Like I would do one and then go, all right, that was cool. I'm going to come back later and play another one, or I'll play one tomorrow, or I'll eat dinner and then I'll come back. Like it's good for that type of thing. Those like big bite-sized things. Like you take a big bite, it's a big ass mission. You get the win, you get in unseen, you get the intel, whatever, you know, stuff like that. Also the fact that it's not just assassination based. For a while, you know, 5 did a good job with this, like shaking it up. But like for a while, the Sniper Elite games were just like, hey, assassinate these guys. You got to shoot your way to that guy. He's the big target. You got to kill him. Here, that's more of an optional thing. You'll be creeping through a level or scanning a level and see an optional target you can take out if you want to try and get over there. It's really more about French resistance stuff and like tackling Nazi infrastructure and like anti-aircraft guns and like their power systems and their research. And there's just a cool little angle. Just makes you feel a little bit more sneaky. Like you're just not just a murder assassin. I mean, you're doing a lot of that, but there's some tactics to it. Really, I think it's a good time. I think these games are reliable good times. I know Sniper Elite 5 came out in like 2022. And this still feels a lot like it. And I think at this point after this, the series might need a little bit more of a shakeup, a little bit more of a refresh, maybe tighten up the boots on the ground, like up close stealth mechanics, make those a little bit more in depth. I don't know. I think at this point, like I'm pretty good. I think they need to like change it up after this. But like I was saying, these games are always like they're there. They always end up on like Xbox Game Pass or PlayStation Plus or on sale on Steam or whatever. And you can hop in, shoot some Nazis, do some World War II stuff, do some sniping, get that satisfaction, that third person gory shooting, and then move on. This one I think is consistent. It's another one of those. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I had a lot of fun playing that, shooting dudes, taking out missions and stuff like that in between all of the other games I'm currently reviewing right now. Of course, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'll be talking about that very soon on Game Ranks, and I'm going to try and talk about it at some point over here as well. So keep your eyes peeled. But that's all I got for you today. That's two things. Every Wednesday, I talk about two news stories, two things I just find interesting, something I can go a little bit more in depth on as opposed to Game Ranks. But let me know what you think about this stuff, the Xbox, PlayStation news, of course, and let me know what you think about Sniper Elite Resistance. If you are playing it, I'd love to know your thoughts, your first impressions. But let's talk about any of this stuff. Man, you know where to find me. I'm here in the comments. I'm on Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, Twitter, all those places, so hit me up. But if you like what I'm trying to do here, I'm just talking about stuff I love, stuff I find interesting. Clicking the like button helps me out, genuinely. Thank you. But I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me. I need another cup of coffee, but it's 5 o'clock. Oh, geez.